Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Zell in Paradise. Today we are here at the American Space Museum, a unique museum of space history honoring the workers who put Americans in space. This museum is located in Titusville, Florida. Outside the museum, they have here a space shuttle, a rocket engine. This engine is called RL-10 engine. RL-10 engine was the world's first operational liquid hydrogen or liquid oxygen high-energy restartable second-stage rocket engine used in space. This particular RL-10 engine was launched from Cape Canaveral Launch Complex 36A on September 30, 1977. Its mission was to deliver an Intelsat 4A communications satellite to orbit. We are now inside the museum and they also have a gift shop. They also have astronauts ice cream.
A 100 years ago, and his rocket, and his control room. Everything was tiny. It was the very beginning of the program. He was around World War I. World War II, the Germans invented V-2 rockets. You've heard of those. They used them as weapons. We won the war. We and the Russians got the spoils of war, which was a lot of V-2 rockets that weren't used. We brought them here. They took them to their test area. We brought them to a place called White Sands, New Mexico. You may have heard of White Sands, New Mexico. Well, we used to launch some rockets there. Sometimes it would fall actually into Mexico, and the Canaveral was really, really unhappy with us. So we had to find a new place, and this was the launch for a new place. It was a Naval Air Station here called the Cape Canaveral Naval Air Station. They changed that to Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, now Space Force Station. By launching here, our rockets go in the ocean. If they fail or blow up or crash, they go in the water. By being here, this is about as near the equator as we can get with this much property and still be in the continental United States. By being this close to the equator, our rockets get a 900-mile-an-hour boost just from the rotation of the Earth. On the equator, it's about 1,000 miles an hour. That means less fuel, bigger payloads. Now we're going to go down there and look at some of this early rocket stuff. Then we'll talk.
And their German scientists,
Say that again?
our German scientists were better than the Russians.
Well, for a while they weren't. Actually, I think we ended up with the best Russian German scientist. Wonder von Braun was a special guy. All right, now what's the unique feature of these pictures here, folks?
All women.
They are.
Yeah,
Did you
women.
know
Yeah.
All women.
that? Once again, you're out.
All women.
So, did you guys know that this many? No, you're outnumbered. He's not. Sorry. Masks make everybody look the same. Did you all know this many women have flown in space? I mean, it's pretty amazing. I knew a lot. I didn't know that until I actually saw it on everybody together. Now, again, the Russians beat us to it. This was the first lady in space, Valentina Terescova. Our first female astronaut to fly was Sally Ride. You probably heard that name before. Everybody remembers this one, right? Krista McAuliffe?
Yep.
She was a teacher in space. She was on Challenger, and we lost her when we lost Challenger. Now, a bunch of these ladies have actually been to the visitor complex. My job there was a communicator, is what it's called. I did tours, did walking tours, bus tours, did special tours with the astronauts. But one of the coolest things that we did out there was we were the escorts for the astronauts. They became our co-workers. There was an astronaut of the day every day. And so I got to meet a bunch of these folks. This lady right here would probably fit in this and rattle around. And she's little. And before I ever met her, I found a picture of her, and instead of her name right there, her name badge said too short. And when I met her, I said, I have to know about that picture. And she said, well, I volunteered to go to the Russian space station Mir. And they said, you are too short for our spacesuits. So they wouldn't let her go. So her fellow astronauts made her the name tag and said too short. So when you fly on a Soyuz, you have to wear a Russian spacesuit. You can't, ours don't work in their spacecraft. Excuse me. My favorite lady astronaut is this lady, Barbara Morgan. She and Krista McAuliffe were the two finalists for Teacher in Space. They were chosen together. Krista drew the short straw, so she got to fly. And after we returned to flight, Barbara went back into training and later flew as Teacher in Space. When she came back, NASA said, you have a brilliant career ahead of you. She said, I'm done. I did what Krista and I wanted to do, and she moved on to other things. She is a beautiful person. She is a wonderful lady. Now, who remembers, a few months ago, SpaceX launched a four-man, four-person crew to the space station. Remember that? The name of the flight was Crew 1. You remember this lady being on that flight? Shannon Parker was one of the four astronauts, SpaceX launched. She's there now. This lady is in the ISS now. Christina Coates over here, she came back last summer. She set a record for duration, and she was there almost a year. So a lot of these ladies are still flying. Now let me ask you folks a question. We had 100, they were powerful. They put our astronauts in space, in orbit in space. Now, let me ask you, how many of these were civilian rockets? Until we built the moon rocket, every rocket we used was a military rocket. These Some of them had warheads on them. They had military satellites and so forth. We have one, remember the rocket garden that's out there, the Titan rocket that's there, I've been told came out of a silo when it went to the rocket, when they retired them. So they were ballistic missiles. Now before we ever sent these men into space, we wanted to be sure it was safe, we sent this little guy named Ham. And he actually was trained to do things when he got certain signals. He was trained to flip some switches or something. And every time he got it right, he got one of these banana chips. And he must not have gotten a lot of them right because according to this side, he came back in a nasty mood. He was not maybe it was just being on top of a rocket wasn't very fun to him. I don't know. Now, after we had those 2 flights, we had our first astronaut on top of one of these rockets. Now that's how big a person is compared to these rockets. So, who was our first astronaut to orbit the Earth? You know. Anybody else know? Familiar name? John Glenn. And let me show you. Excuse me. Over here, we have a picture of John Glenn. That's his launch. Have a picture of him on his launch pad with his hard hat on. There's his hard hat right there. We got it here in our museum. Now you know that today, whenever there's a launch, a computer does the launch. It goes through, I mean, there are people monitoring it, but it's a computerized process. Back in those days, there really was a button. And this is the button that was actually used to launch John Glenn. Yeah, let me tell you, that button's only one place on Earth, and it's right here. I'm not really sure how we ended up with it, but we got it. Somebody, Titusville used to be literally ground zero for space workers and the people that worked in the program, everybody. All right, now this was a windowless one-man capsule. It was dark. People that I know that had met John Glenn said he practiced for 100 hours or more in his capsule, blindfolded, learning where all the switches were, how to make sure that he knew everything that was gonna. We didn't even know if your eyes would work at zero gravity. Now, when he was on his flights, he did a very important experiment. He took out a tube of applesauce. He ate it and radioed back. I was able to eat the applesauce. We didn't know if you could